Hello, everybody. We are here for Tuesday Talks, and today we are here with an amazing guest called Chris Cogger. I hope I'm saying your name correct. I am very rubbish at saying the names. Now, Chris is a certified business coach. He is, now I have to be careful here, demonizing the occult, which I would love to know more about, and is also a wellness and development consultant. So let's get Chris on here, and he's the best person to expand on this. Hello, Chris. How are you doing?
Hey, Zishan, not bad. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you very much for coming on to Tuesday Talks and giving us your time. I've
Sure
done a
thing.
short introduction for you already,
Okay,
but obviously you're the best person to expand on that and do justice. So let us know, for the audience, who you are, what you do, and the biggest question of all is, why do you do it, Chris?
okay, yeah. Gosh, it's a bit of a long story, a bit of a weird one. This probably won't be. We're probably going to be covering some topics that get a bit weird. But that's what always gets that's when stuff gets interesting, I guess. Yeah. So for those that don't know me, I'm Chris, and I founded and run a platform called Mistai. And it's as well as being a coach for lots of different things. But I like to identify myself a lot more as kind of an esoteric business coach. And Mistai as a platform, for those of you who are interested in it, is a platform for self-development, for spirituality. But it's rooted a lot more in occultism. And occultism is a very interesting, very weird topic in the world. Because there is a lot of what should we say? A lot of misconceptions when it comes to the word occult. I mean, you probably have some yourself, right? When I say the word occult, what comes to mind usually?
A cult?
Yeah, so cults. Yeah, that's definitely
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Um,
Just people being secluded into doing certain thing but nobody else is doing.
yeah, sure. So sort of that idea of secretism, I guess, is always a bit of an interesting one. For most people, when you say the word occult, their mind usually defaults to sort of very weird images of like weird goats or Satanism or anything like that, right? And it's really not true. Ultimately, there has been a lot of misinformation about occultism, esotericism, mysticism, spirituality, all that kind of thing. Even from either from mainstream sources or from other spiritual communities, spiritual sources, right? The word itself literally just, it comes from the Latin occulare, which literally means hidden. So occultism just means the study of things that are hidden, things that are under the surface, things that maybe don't make sense in a rational society. It is what, as a matter of fact, a lot of modern spiritual systems have grown out of. When you look at anything today in mainstream spiritual systems like the law of attraction, manifestation, all those kinds of things, they are built on occult principles. They are built on occult or esoteric ideas. And esoteric is the inner spiritual dimensions of something. So if you think of exoteric is the outwards of things, the mainstream society. The esoteric is the indoors thing that doesn't really make sense to people unless they're very well versed in a current or in an idea. And Mistai especially was founded with one main goal. It was the idea that we should be able to study spirituality or study spiritual experiences from an academic and cited and oftentimes scientific viewpoint, rather than the kind of, when you look at a lot of modern spiritual cycles, we kind of have a big problem with very kind of wishy-washy sources, and things are not very grounded. A lot of it's based on, honestly, kind of bad science. And a lot of the stories, a lot of the information that gets thrown around, especially around manifestation, law of attraction, all those kinds of things, it's really coming from very risky sources that don't actually make a lot of sense. So my job, actually, as my background, things which we can get into, was to look at all of that. And I said, okay, what would happen if we had a platform that not only was giving you historically accurate, authentic sources for practicing your spirituality, practicing also your business and just your general philosophy and your daily life and everything like that, but also ones that were scientifically backed, ones that were accurate, and that you were transparent. Really, you know, like, transparency is one of my core values here, because if you don't know where your sources are coming from, if you don't know where certain biases are factoring into your different philosophies, then you're going to keep going around in circles of perpetuating the same, you know, the same myths and spreading the same misinformation. So I wanted to get in and change that. And ultimately, we are in the business of transformation. We are in, whether it's self-transformation, community transformation, collective transformation, anything like that. We are in the business of transformation. It just so happens that mysticism and spiritual experiences are our medium for doing that. And we teach people how to engage those other altered states of consciousness in order to, well, gain transformation. Get transformation for themselves, gain personal clarity, gain ideas of their purpose, of their mission, all that kind of stuff. And that was really my inroad into the company that I started now. And we're teaching courses, we're giving materials, we have lots of PDFs, libraries, and all that kind of thing that we can share with people. But I got in, I sort of, as it was going through, it became more and more apparent that there's only so much you can do on a community basis. There's only so much you can do on a community level when you're talking to large groups of people. In reality, what I really wanted to do in my transformation journey, the biggest way in which I felt I could serve is through coaching, through personal coaching, where I could interact with people one-on-one, where I could hold people accountable a lot of the time. And that was something that was really interesting to me, because that sense of self-accountability is so important, especially when you can really get clear with a person in a coaching sense of what their goals are, where they're going, and how you can help transform their life. Ultimately, and that's what we're doing, right? We're in the business of transformation. I think every coach is in the business of transformation. And it has been an incredible journey, because I founded Misty nearly 2 months ago now. And it was quite interesting, because what ended up happening, we had a pretty rocky start with the whole thing. But now we're up to a point where our community is going, I think we're almost over 100 members. The entire platform is self-sustaining, and it's doing pretty well. And we're pretty proud of it. All of us are pretty proud of it. But yeah, you know, I'm still in the process of setting up the coaching methodologies and everything. But it's been interesting. I've never really run a business before, so it's interesting being a CEO and running a team. And it's not something, you know, I'm kind of learning on the job with it, but it's what ends up happening. You know, you kind of trial by fire a lot of the time. So
I love this, and then, you know, and thank you for sharing this whole experience and journey with everybody here. You know, and the process, and what I'm hearing also is, you know, you're going through this journey and recognizing the process which is needed to build and work with, and as you said, you know, it's trial and error part of things, right? So you have to, you're prepared that, you know, okay, I'm doing this. I don't know if it's going to work or not. Let's do it and find out, right? And rather than like, oh, I need to wait, let it cook a little bit more, right? Have the formula ready a little bit more, and do it. And in that case, and having your company just 2 months ago, you know, you're very, very young in the business side, right, of the things. And it's amazing that you've grown the community so big, you know, and that is sustaining itself as well. It's amazing to hear all that. Oh, I think we had a question sent here from Sonny. What is the most misunderstood form of magic in your opinion? So that, keep hold of that question. We will bring it up to get that answered as well. So, you know, in regards to what you were doing with your journey, and how have you found, I know you said you're still, you know, learning as you're going through, but how have you found that journey of starting a business and being the CEO, let's say, you know, the balance that everybody that talks about, obviously you mentioned the team there as well. So, you know, you have some people who are also doing things that you are not able to finish, or, you know, you're delegating. How has that journey been? What's the experience there?
Yeah, you know, it's always been a challenge for me. Mostly because I'm a major perfectionist. when it comes to things. I think perfectionism is one of my fatal flaws.
Oh no! So this is like contradicting earlier what you
This
said.
is
You're going
a
with the
complete
flow.
contradiction to everything that goes on in my life, right? Because I hold myself to impossibly high standards a lot of the time, and if things are not absolutely perfect in the way I'm doing them, I'm like, I'm absolutely failing. This is terrible. Oh. And then the one thing I think more than anything that I've learned going through this journey in general is you can't be a CEO and be a perfectionist. You can't be a leader and be a perfectionist, because things are not going to be perfect. Things do not go perfectly, and it's okay, because this is the thing. You learn through the imperfections, right? When you make mistakes, that's what helps you learn, and that has been probably the biggest lesson for me, because the fact that I can't do everything, and this was really the problem when we first started out, even before I started hiring team members and things, because I was in that space where I was in a space where every startup is, where I had no capital, I had no funds to fund the whole thing, I had no team members or anything to help me with things. All I had was one course and a webcam. That was it. So I had to, on the job, I had to learn video editing, so to edit the course. I had to learn web development to build the website and build the platform. I had to, even with podcasts that I've now started doing, I had to learn how to do RSS feeds and publish and all of that. And then YouTube videos and everything. So I have no idea how to do any of this. And it got to the point where it was a weird kind of catch-22, where it was like, okay, if I don't get out and just start doing things, if I don't put things out, even if they're not perfect, I'm gonna disappear. Like, I'm not gonna be able to have the, I'm not gonna have any amount of impact of what's going on. So I had to just come out. I had to take a huge step out of my comfort zone to just say, okay, it's not going to be perfect. Yes, I'm going to change. Everything's going to change. My vision is going to change. Everything. But as long as I have something out there, I have something to make my mark there, and then something people can interact with, which is something that people can get interacting with my energy for, And it has been a challenge. It really has, because I was doing everything, and I to a large extent I am still doing everything. I was, for a course that I was doing, I was doing all the research, I was making all the PowerPoint slides, I was recording it live every week, or twice a week actually, and then I was doing the video editing and the uploading, and I was also running the social media, and I was also doing all the marketing and the branding and the vision statements, and it was all overwhelming. It was insane, and it's not at all something that one person can handle doing. I don't think, even if you're the best CEO and the best leader in the world, I don't think business in general is set up for one single person to do everything. It's vital that you get your team together, because ultimately your idea is going to make you a founder, but your team is going to make you a success. And finding that balance between what I can delegate, and then also finding people that actually resonate with the mission, has also been a challenge. But again, I think Aisha talks about this in a lot of the courses and things that he does. But when you're going about hiring team members, you hire because of attitude, not because of skill. Because people can learn on the job. And I am a prime example of that now. Like, when I started everything, I had no idea how to do anything. And now I'm at a point where things are kind of, they're getting to the point where they're automated a bit more. Like, the email marketing is more automated. The social media posts, now I have a person that helps me with that. So that's a bit more automated and everything. But getting to that point, I think, has been an incredibly long road. And it's insane to think that it's happened in 2 months. Because, I look back to what my life was like 2 months ago before I started all of this. And I was in a very, very rough spot. In general, like I had left my job, and I left it on quite bad terms with my previous employer. I had lost a lot of customers. I had nothing. When I officially started, it's interesting because I remember I started on the spring equinox. That was the day, because I put my first Instagram post out to announce the new company on the spring equinox. And it's kind of interesting, because even if you think about it, energetically or spiritually or anything, if people are into that kind of thing, the spring equinox is a time of new beginnings. It's a time of new birth, of growth, of fertility. When you get your ideas out and you plant seeds for things, that's the whole idea of what the pagans are talking about when they say Ostara, which is the festival. But it's interesting to see because I put all the ideas out then, and I had no idea where I was going. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but I had no way of getting there. I had no team. I had no how. I had nothing. But I think the biggest thing that you learn when you're doing all this kind of stuff is the how doesn't really matter. The how will sort itself out as people begin to attract, and you begin to attract the right kinds of people around you. All that matters, especially in the early stages of a startup, is the why. Because if you get clear on your why and your vision of what you're doing and where you want to go, then naturally, as you start progressing through, you will find more and more people will just come through, and opportunities will present themselves where you can then lean into or not lean into, depending on what it is. But it's the same in, I think, a lot of areas of life. You can choose what to lean into with things. But yeah, it has been a journey. It really has. And it is difficult to put into words where everything is at, but it's been fun.
It's an amazing journey from obviously what I'm hearing here now, right? So it's and for all the listeners and viewers who are watching that now, what I'm taking away from this here is, it's a case of realizing your why and putting it out there, right? And then set upon that journey. So taking actions also matter then, right? So you have been taking actions. You've also already mentioned that you're a perfectionist. So if you had leaned onto your perfectionism side, you would have not taken any actions. You would have waited. Oh, right. Yeah, I've got this. I've got the vision. I've got this to continue, but I'll wait until this is right, whatever that would be, right?
Well, I think, yeah, I think if I had given into the perfectionism, I would probably still now be perfecting the vision, and nothing would have been done, right? Yeah. And this is the irony. This is the irony of it all. It's only through taking imperfect action that my vision is developed, right? It's only through actually putting myself out there and saying, okay, you know what? It's not going to be perfect. That's fine. And I'm just gonna hustle, right? As people are saying in the comments there, like, just gotta do it. You've got to put it out there, take the imperfect action, and the vision itself will develop as you're going through. And you will find aspects of yourself and aspects of whatever you're doing that actually give you a better picture of what's going on, right? It's like, you'll find areas, I think, where your expectations need to be kind of curtailed a lot of the time. I think even nowadays, and this is like something over the past, it's been going on for the past week or so for me, but my expectations of where I'm supposed to be at are just like, again, they're not on point. And it's fine because I'm a new business. I'm a startup. I've never done this stuff before, so I don't know what to expect or like where I should be in my journey. But the perfectionism was coming in a lot of the time where I was like, okay, well, I should have a bigger team by this point. I should be able to pay a lot more people. I should be on every single social media platform. I should be doing all of this. And it's like, okay, but just take a breath. Just take a step back. Just be like, okay, look at your expectations here. We started a business startup 2 months ago, and you have no business experience with it. It's okay to just slow down. It's okay to just be like, you know what? I'm going to let things just explore. I'm going to let them see what happens, right? Because as the business develops, I think ultimately businesses do follow a life cycle. They do follow the same life cycle as people, right? From birth to gestation to maturity to eventual decline. And usually when you're in the decline phase, that's when you sell it off. Or you find some other way to reinvent it and that kind of thing, right? But considering your business as a living entity, one that actually progresses and evolves and that kind of thing, I think has also been really helpful to me. Because every time that I sort of think, oh, I'm not in the right season for this, I'm just like, well, actually, my business is still in its infancy. It's still in its baby stages. But we're still learning to take the baby steps. And that's fine. Because that's just where we're at, right? Our journey is going to be beautiful. And 10 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever it is, right, we'll be in an entirely different spot. And we'll be able to look back on this and be like, you know what? I'm really glad we took our time with it. Because at the same time, you want to do it right. And in a way, I suppose, like now I'm saying it, that is also kind of a little shadow of perfectionism coming in, where it's like, okay, right, I have to do this right. But this is the great irony of it, because in order to do it right, I have to go slow. I have to take my time. I have to make sure that I have to make sure all the I's and the T's are dotted and crossed, right? And the only way I'm going to do that is if I take my time with it. And
It's yeah, go on. Sorry.
no, yeah, I said that's the journey, right? That's the part of, I think, owning a business and starting a business. You know, going through that journey and going through all the high highs and low lows and all of it. All of it is what makes you into a leader, right? Leaders are born, or leaders are created rather. They're not born, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're created through action. And again, it's the act of taking unconfident action that gets you to that spot, I think.
100% agree with that as well. You know, like the leaders are created, and a lot of skills are learned on the go, as you know. So everything that you and I love the fact that you touched upon. You know, if you're looking at your business as a living entity, and then it's being in a very early stage of its life, it's an infant at the moment, right? So if you know, looking at ourselves, what does the infant do? Nothing a lot. You have to look after it. Now and then it gives you a bundle of joy here. Like, oh, well, like, it smiled, you know. It's like, so your business is going to do the same thing. Now and then you will get something, but at the moment it needs all the work that you can give it. And then, you know, it will learn to walk. That means you're leveled up. You know, now the business is sustaining, which for on your side is kind of there. You know, is sustaining it, and so listening to the journey is, you know, it's amazing. And I just wanted to take a deep breath here and stop and say congratulations to you already. You know, you are doing great in terms of you know, just starting a business 2 months ago, putting your thought out there, and where you are now, right? So you're having a small team, yet is a team, right? So that's all it's needed, right? You're just learning to cycle, right? So you've got 4 wheels there. You know, you're gonna start taking those wheels off, and then suddenly there'll be a huge team, which means it's just gonna be cycling itself, right? So at the moment, it's on stabilizers, so you still need your support. And I love this. And let's answer the question that we had. Are you able to see the question that comes up there?
Yes. What is it? This is from one of my students actually in my platform.
There we go. There you go.
Yeah, so he's asking about magic. So this goes back to, I guess, more specific to my topic itself, right? But as I said earlier, right, Mistai deals with mysticism. It deals with the occult, with magic, with spirituality. It's more kind of older forms, right? Because we're not so much talking about your typical sort of law of attraction, manifestation style stuff. Like to me, I've always had a very rational, logical mind with these kinds of things. And it's not that I don't believe they exist, because I certainly do. It's just that I believe that these things are sciences. I think that we can break them down. I think that we can create methodologies for them and get repeatable results again and again. And really, when you look at occultism as a whole, that's what it is. It's the framework for doing this. It's almost a scientific methodology. Like everyone that tells you that magic or manifestation or anything like that isn't a science, they have no idea what they're talking about because they haven't studied it, right? When you study it, when you look at, going back to the medieval period, the Renaissance, all that kind of thing, the amount of people who were writing grimoires and treatises and theses on all this stuff, they were really calculating the entire methodology behind it, and it works. This is the thing that people don't realize. You do it and it works, and it's one of those. It's like what I always tell people with when they ask me, it's like, oh well, magic isn't real. I'm like, okay, have you tried it? No. But single-handedly, it's always the answer. People always default and say, well, it's not real. I'm like, okay, go and do this. Go and do all of these things at this time, at this space, all this kind of thing, with these kind of visualizations, these kinds of mindsets. Here's the things that you need to do. And they do it, or they'll go and do it, and as soon as they do, they'll realize it actually works. Right? And then that's what starts their journey. That's what starts the initial dive into things. When you take the leap, right? When you take the unconfident action, you say, okay, you know what? You ask yourself the question. You say, okay, I don't believe this is true. What if it was? What if there are aspects to the world or aspects to myself that I don't know about? Like, and it's interesting to me that you come in with it, because I think there's a sense of arrogance that comes into it. Yes, we can absolutely lean into the fact that certain things are disproved by science and things like that. But if you think the entire essence of the scientific method is hypothesis and testing, right? It's saying, okay, I have an idea, I have a theory, a hypothesis. I'm going to go devise an experiment that does this, 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 and this. And I'm going to see what result I get. And then depending on that result, I'm going to alter my original belief or my original theory. Same thing. You can apply that exact methodology to manifestation, to the magic, whatever it is you want to call it, right? Any amount of internal change that you create that you then direct towards a goal that then occurs. And you can say, you know, it occurs through synchronicity, through coincidence, whatever it is, right? It doesn't matter. The point is you get a result. So then to go back to this question here, what's the most misunderstood form of magic? I think a lot of it is misunderstood. I don't think there is any one particular form that is understood. I think the biggest assumption in it is that it's not scientific, is that it's not a logical system of progression. When you look at, you know, this is more sort of on my personal end of things, right? But if you look at any of the medieval and the Renaissance books, or treaties or grimoires, we call them grimoires, right? But any of these treaties that you look at, the entire thing relies on a structured method. And not only is it a methodology for manifestation, right? But at the same time, it's a methodology that is entirely scientific in the sense that it's broken into stages. Every single stage relies on, what do we call it? Confirmation. Basically, you do a certain set of procedures, you get a result. Then based on that result, you do the next set and the next and the next. But every single time you're stopping to check the result. You get the result and then you do it, right? And then that's eventually how things work, and how eventually you begin to get results and begin to get manifestations and how things lean into it, right? So in terms of what's the most misunderstood, you know, we can go whether it's ceremonial or traditional or anything like that, or planetary magic or candle magic, anything like that are typical things. But really, I think the biggest assumption is that magic or manifestation, whatever you want to call it, isn't a science, because it absolutely is a science. And we are in the least, we are in the business of making it a science. We are breaking those steps down, I think.
I think I love this answer actually, and I would have just say from my side of view, you know, like not being into as in depth as what you do yourselves, but you know, magic in all form in general is just is misunderstood anyway. You know, it's something you know, you enjoy it as a kid, and you know you're into it, you understand, and as you and when you're becoming an adult or you're growing up, society just scoops in and like, oh, not this, do this, right? And this is where you need to be. Forget about this. It's play stuff. You don't need to be playing with the, I don't know, these twigs anymore, or the candles or whatever spices you're holding, you know, like for example, in certain places. But yeah, I love your answer. Thank you very much for answering that. And I hope, Sonny, that answered your question. So coming back to your own journey, since you've been, you know, started your company and everything, is that anything specifically that you started that you are doing constantly, like is there a routine, or some people like to call it ritual, where you're doing that you're like, okay, I'm gonna stick to this now, even though it has no correlation with business maybe, but you might have?
Yeah, well, the first thing with this actually, I think it's a good opportunity to clarify this, exactly what we mean by ritual. Okay, ritual, even if you take the sort of the anthropological definition, which is just sort of the general definition that anthropologists use, a ritual is any kind of action that doesn't have, what do you call it? Or it's any kind of action that is symbolic in its nature. It doesn't have a functional viewpoint or functional meaning behind it. So you have your morning ritual, right? There is no reason for you to do certain things in certain orders. You know, mine in the morning. Well, I'm actually in the process of changing it, because for ages I was up to this point where I always had my phone next to my bed, and I was in that horrible habit of the first thing I did in the morning was I check my phone. So I wake up, and even before I pee or anything, I check my phone. And now I'm sitting here realizing, like, that's a really unhealthy way of waking up and starting the day. Because if you think, if the first thing you're doing in the morning is checking your phone, then you're getting flooded with a massive amount of people who are going to be asking you questions, whether it's on messages, or if anyone has to deliver awkward news to you, you're going to be getting that first thing in the morning. Or, you know, I don't particularly like the news and the media in general. I think they are they're very much in the business of fear mongering. And you get tons of news notifications about everything terrible that's going on in the world, and it just sets your day off for a very bad tone, right? So I'm trying to get into the point of not checking my phone before like 10, 11 in the morning at this point. Like I usually get up around, I don't know, I get up around 8:39 nowadays, and then I'll usually my first instance is just a morning meditation, and that's on both levels. There's a mystical element to it, which is I have my own practices, my meditations, but it also just clears your mind. It sets your tone, and also at the same time, I think once your mind is clear, it also gives you the opportunity to almost program in your intention for the day. And this is a really powerful practice that people can do, right? If the first thing you do in the morning is you meditate and you clear your mind, you can set an intention for the day. And when you do, you can set the schedule for your day. You can play your day out as a scene. And, if you imagine, so if you were to do, but if we were to talk about this in the most practical sense, right? You come in and you go into meditation, you quiet your mind, all that kind of thing. Then get yourself like a little screen up in your mind. If any of you have taken Vishen's Silver Mind classes, he talks about this a lot, like the mental screen. Get the mental screen up and then just play out your day, or how you want your day to go, right? In terms of a visualization, but also really put yourself into it, right? Really get the sounds there, the emotions, the kind of conversations you want to be having, that kind of thing. And really play it out scene by scene and put yourself into it. And as you do, you'll find yourself being able to just program in ever so slightly, I should say, program in synchronicities, program in intentions of what you want to accomplish in that day, right? And as you go through, it really gets you internally hyped up a lot of the time, because you're kind of seeing your day as it progresses, right? And it's a really powerful practice. And then you go out after grounding all of that, maybe do some morning grounding sessions or anything like that. And then I'll go and usually brew a cup of tea or something. I'm a big tea drinker. And then I will sit down, usually cross off all my emails, because email is like my main thing at the moment. See if there are any messages I need to respond to, and then I'll usually get to work. But I will not work before 10, because that is a very important thing for me. There have been numerous studies that show actually that working before 10 is just not productive. Like after 10 o'clock is when our brain gets more productive in general. So I don't work before 10. All the way going up to 10 is my morning routine time. It's my me time for things, and I honestly need that hour between 9 and 10, because otherwise I burn out. It's really important to get it, but that's my morning one. I have obviously other sort of little mini rituals and things throughout the day. Some of them are more mystical in nature, I suppose we could say, which we don't have to get into for these because it would take too long to explain them all, I guess. But a lot of my practice is derived from sort of ceremonial stuff and ceremonial ritual and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think I probably do at this point probably two big rituals a day, and in that time, that is my own sort of mystical spiritual practice that I do, and they are very important for me, whether it's for certain guides or connection to things that I'm working with, or different kinds of paradigms of things. And then I'll have a nighttime ritual. My nighttime ritual, I think, is the one that needs the most work, honestly, because I don't sleep super well. That's like my big thing that I need to work on at the moment. But yeah, my nighttime one is a bit loose. I think I really need to sit down and like plan it out a bit more. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does, and I love the fact that obviously you expanded it for the whole day, and a lot of people that shared with us in our previous episodes have mentioned a meditation part of in the morning, and then taking your time before actually punching in the clock for your work, basically, right? Yeah. So you're doing that, and it was great to hear that you're mentioning, like the brain's more productive from 10 o'clock, and there are times that I've actually noticed that myself as well. You're like, oh yeah, this is correct. Like it does. So even though you're running for the office or to be there at 8, 9 o'clock, whatever that time is, you don't really start working from 10 o'clock anyway. Wherever you are, you don't really start doing that. I mean, you might be sitting on the computer and all that stuff, maybe checking your emails, catching up on whatever's come through at the night from the people who've been busy working for the night, and that's when you start doing that. So it was great thing that you pointed out, and it just clocked my mind as well. I was like, yes, that is 100% correct. Is, you know, your mind doesn't do anything before 10. It's wonderful to hear.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I think it's, and even if you are doing things before 10, it's mostly just procrastination, right? You're just like randomly procrastinating. We're doing those little menial jobs that you probably could have done before you closed up shop last night. You know, it's not anything that's remotely productive. And it you know, I mean, it kind of goes both ways, because that makes sense a lot of the time for people. But there's also something to be said for those people that like get up at like 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, and they have those like super early morning routines. And I did go through a phase where I tried that. But in general, just, I think everyone's body is different. And everyone's body needs different things, and you need to be aware of whatever it is that your body personally needs. And for me, just because a lot of the rest of my life is kind of stressful, a lot of different ways, I need my sleep. Like having a decent, like at least a good 6-7 hours. That's like vital to me, just because the rest of my life is a bit chaotic sometimes. And I need that kind of pick me up to be able to deal with everything. So getting up at like 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning is not really a thing. For me, like unless I'm on like a camping trip or something where I can rise with it or something, and it's easier, but I just don't do it at home. It's not a thing for me.
Awesome. Okay, that's good to know. Good to know, because yeah, I mean, there's been a phases that I went through as well. I was up quite early, and I think so the body just adjusts to that, because it's trying to find that rhythm. Like, oh yeah, okay, but then obviously it tries to go back to its original rhythm that it was already, right. And this is what your body is saying, okay, hello, I run on this clock here, right? So we need to adjust to that. Totally understand and agree with that. And that's like, yeah, and when you're on the festivals and camping time, that's that's an adjustment to be made, right? It's only for a few days. So expanding onto the, you know, coming back onto your coaching side of things, and you expand onto that, you know, your love now doing those one-to-one coaching side of things, and, you know, helping individual basis, and hence you're the wellness side of things as well. So what does that journey look like for someone if they wanted to reach out to you, and, you know?
So I'm always evolving. I'm always evolving my approach. So I'm hesitant to say this is what my approach is. This is what I do, because my approach may change next week, right? It's changing as I grow. Like, yes, I have some overarching principles of what I'm going to do with you if you reach out to me, you know, how we're going to work together. But on the whole, my approach is always evolving, because you are always evolving. And if I, as a coach, I'm not constantly evolving, if I'm not constantly improving myself, I can't serve you with my fullest capacity. Right, that's an important point for me, because ultimately one of my core values is service when it comes to coaching. I think one of the core values of a lot of coaches is service. If you're not doing this out of a place of service, I think there's some things you need to look at. There's some things you need coaching on if you're not doing this as a coach or in a place of service, right? But a lot of my coaching sessions at the moment are very focused around a person's their own energy, how they're approach to things, and their energy is a very complicated, nuanced word as a whole. But for me, the word energy just means the motivating force behind all things. It's the thing that gives something its oomph, right? So then you can apply that to everything, whether you're talking about it in the esoteric and the occult sense, when you're thinking whether it's chi or prana or anything like that from any of the esoteric mystical texts, or it's just your personal energy of how much energy you have during the day, right? How much energy you have to give to your visions, how much energy you have to give to your dreams, whatever it is, right? That's the part of you that I want to work with. Because ultimately, the thing that you learn, I think, as a coach is that everyone has the answers they want themselves. The only thing, your only job as a coach is to be a mirror. It's to hold the space for them and be like, okay, you know what? You already have your answer. I'm just cheerleading you on. I'm just giving you a space to find it. That's all we're doing. As a coach, you're just creating the container for their own transformation, but they're the ones that really do it, right? The best coaches don't really, or at least in my experience, the best coaches don't really give you the answers, right? Because that's more what a consultant does. And that's one of the things why Ajit's program and things in CVC, I guess this is free advertising for them. But that's why it's such a great thing, because they combine both of them. They combine the consulting and the coaching. But it is a very interesting package. And again, it really depends on the reason you're coming to me. If you're coming to me as a coach, are you coming to me from a personal standpoint, in that you have like some spiritual crisis, some crisis of meaning, or crisis of purpose in your life, in which case we're going to have a very different conversation to if you're coming to me from a business perspective, where you're saying, hey, I want your help growing a business. I want your help working with my culture, with my teams, with my leadership, whatever it is, right? That's going to be two separate conversations, and it's going to be two separate funnels of how I'm going to interact with you, and the different ways of what I'm going to interact with you. In general, I don't do single sessions anymore. If you're coming on as a coachee or as a student, I guess you can say, especially if it's a personal student, and someone that I am interacting with one-on-one, I'm not going to give you one session and then walk away. Right? We're going to talk about it, and we're going to go more down sort of the package route, and that's safer for both of us, but also it's more transformative for both of us, because I don't really think, in my experience now having coached some clients, from what I've seen, it's very rare that the transformation actually happens during the session. They might, your clients in a session, they might have an aha moment, absolutely. But the repercussions of that aha moment are going to be felt over the next week, when they're applying that new level of awareness that they gain into their lives and the different things. And then they're going to check back in with you next week, and they're going to be like, okay, you know what, I had that moment, I tried this, and this is what happened. And it was really great, or it sucked. And then you go both ways, okay? It's like, if it was really great, let's do more, let's take the next step, let's find the next aha moment for you to get to the next stage of your life. If it sucked, right, we're still like, okay, it sucked, now what? What do we do? Where do we go, right? This is what Nika was talking about in Tallinn, when we were in Tallinn, right? But it's so interesting. And then if we're coming at it more from the business perspective, absolutely the first thing I'll always do, regardless of what I'm really consulted on, whether it's a team problem or a leadership problem or anything like that, I will always start with leadership. And it's not necessarily because we're looking at it from a hierarchical perspective, where it's like leader at the top barking orders to everybody. If I come in and see that, you better believe I'm breaking you down for it, because that's not a good way of leadership anymore. Under the new rules of leadership, as we've been learning, the way new leaders are functioning is much more flat. It's interacting with everybody, and all the different silos, all the different departments are more interactive, they're more connected, right? Marketing is talking to finance, who is talking to community development. Interactive. It's really creating an entire new landscape of business that is really unheard of, and that is one of the reasons I think it's so important in these, right now at least, in these sort of times, to either have coaches or become coaches, because so much is changing, and we need people to guide, we need people to create those containers. It is very, in a weird way, it is very kind of, it's a very healthy expression of masculine and feminine energy, right? If you think a healthy masculine expression or a healthy masculine energy is very creative, it's very procreative even, it pushes force, right? It's not forceful, but it is very procreative, it expands, right? Whereas a healthy feminine energy can be very formative, it comes in, it's very nurturing, it very kind of creates containers and boundaries for things. And having a good balance between both of those archetypes really, I think, helps you become a better coach, but also just become much more powerful in how you're showing up in the world. And then, of course, while you become more powerful in how you show up, then the amount of impact you can create with your business or with your team drastically increases. But it all starts with you. And then, because it all starts with you, that's where I start as well. I start with you as an individual. And people's journeys, their own everything comes into that, and how that looks. So, and again, because it's so unique, it's difficult to sort of pin down and say, this is exactly what your platform or what your funnel and what our experience is going to look like, because you don't look like anyone else. Your journey doesn't look like anyone else. It's unique, and that's what's important.
I love this. I love this in terms of, so you're creating it to the individual who is needing that help, right? It's not one glove fits all, one size fits all. So it is a case of, right, okay, let's sit down. What are your needs? And we know that one session never works anyway. One session is just to actually get to know each other anyway. And then,
Yeah.
you might bestow some aha moments whilst you're getting to know each other.
Yeah.
But that's not an actual session, right? The session starts after that, because now you're going to open up more and more and more after that, you know. So you go implement, take actions of what's been discussed, and then come back and see the results. What now you think of those results, what you're going to do about it, and what necessary steps are needed now to move forward, as you said, right? So what's next thing that you want to do with what you've achieved? Or if not, if it hasn't gone your way, let's see why. Where did we make that error of not, did we, you know, misjudge something, or did we miss something? So we get to go back on the drawing board and look for that. I love that. So you can tailor it to individuals, and who and what their needs are. So that's amazing. So people are able to reach out to you via Instagram. What other places they can come to?
You could, obviously this is my personal Instagram account. People can reach out to me on this. We have a business account, which is Mr. Official, and you guys can follow the business account on that. Or we have a website, and the website's probably the easiest way, because we have a bunch of contact forms, and we have a coaching page which you can reach out to me on, which is really, really helpful. That's probably the best way. But we also have a Discord server as well at the moment. We are in the this is sort of, I guess, future visions for the company in general. I am in the process of app development right now, which itself is its own huge task. But we are in the process of developing a new app for things, so we can get a dedicated branded place on the App Store for things like this. I'm hoping eventually it can even transition into a kind of a library of spiritual texts and things, and that would be really exciting to have, that anyone can kind of access for study or anything like that. But getting a place on the App Store is sort of the big next step for us. But until then, well, we're doing everything through Discord. So that's probably the best place to just come if you want the community for this kind of thing. If you're into spirituality, or I should say, actually, if you're into a more kind of serious, developed form of spirituality, if you're getting tired with the law of attraction, the manifestation, or it isn't quite working for you, I can tell you why, but you need to come and see. Right? So that's one of the things, and you can come into the community and we can talk together about that, and we can get you some good results. But that's its own thing. And you know, it's interesting. One thing I do want to touch on, this idea of being personal with people, in order to sort of get people talking ultimately, because this is a question that I was asked the other day actually, and it was very interesting, because you know, it's the whole conversation around sales in coaching. Like, how do you? Because if you think, when you're coaching, you're ultimately selling yourself as the product, right? That is a bit of a functionalistic way of looking at it. I know it is, but that's ultimately what you're doing. And you strip away all the fancy marketing jargon and everything else, right? You're selling yourself, and you're saying, hey, I can help you. Here's why, because I'm this and that and whatever. Okay. And the funny thing with it is you need to have a little shift of mindset in order to get it to work, really. And it's that you're not really selling anything. In coaching, you're not really selling. You're communicating. And this is the biggest thing. And this is probably the best piece of advice I can give to new coaches, that I have now personally experienced for myself, and like I can really sort of ground in. And I'll do it through telling you an example with one of my courses. Okay, so when I started 2 months ago, obviously when you start a startup, when you start any kind of business, it's very much dictated by numbers, right? It's very much, okay, we need X amount of people because they're bringing in a certain amount of memberships and so on and so on, or they're bringing in a certain amount of revenue. So when I first started, I was obviously freaking out, and I was always taking the approach of, okay, I need to get more people, I need to get more clients, that's what I need to do. Oh, I need to get more people into my courses, into my platform, all of it. And the way I was doing that is I would get them into the Discord, and then I would just start messaging them and like striking up a conversation. But where I was failing, and I can sit here and laugh at myself now looking back at it. I'm like, oh, I was such an idiot, and it's absolutely fine, because I was going into it, I was getting people into the Discord, or I was striking up conversations, and pretty much the first conversation that we would have would be like, hey, I'm Chris, this is what I do, here are our courses, here's what we sell, boom, boom, boom. And I got literally no responses. I got left on read probably like 20 million times by literally everybody. And then it took me, it's taken me a good 2 months to finally ground this in, where it's like, okay, no one wants that. Like that form of sales is never going to work when you're coaching. It's never going to work when you're hosting a platform or a community, because ultimately people hate being sold to, right? Or sold to, I guess is what I should say. Because it's like telemarketing, right? The second you get one of those telemarketers or door-to-door salesmen, you're going to like shut the door in their face, because no one likes it. Everyone hates people who tell them stuff, right? Instead, I'm just the perspective I've taken is I'm just genuinely curious about the other person. Now, I don't even, when I enter a conversation, I don't even mention that I'm a coach. I don't even mention that we have courses or that we have a platform or anything now. I go into it and I'm just curious. I'm like, hey, like, what are you doing? How are you doing? What's going on in your life? Like, tell me what your pain points are. All of this. Because just tell me what's going on in your life in general. Because ultimately, you have to you have to kind of get it in your head at the same time. How are you going to know, even if you're so convinced with trying to sell yourself as a coach, you're not considering the fact that you might not actually know how to coach somebody, or you may not be the right coach for them, right? Because how do you know that your coaching services are going to be right for that individual person if you have no connection to their pain points, if you don't know who they are, right? Because if you're going into it and your first conversation is about booking a consultation call, and in that consultation call or whatever it is, you're trying to sell yourself as a coach rather than sit there and listen to them and listen to what's going on in their life. What do they want? What are their goals? What are their desires? What are they upset about? What do they think could be a bit better, right? How are you going to know to coach them? And what methodologies are you going to use? You're not going to know anything about it, right? So the best way I've seen, and again, it's not even sales. This is the thing, because we're not selling. I'm just talking with you. That's it. If I come in, I'm just genuinely curious about what about your life, and by doing that, I'm able to come from a higher place of service. Do them like, okay, you know what? I might not actually be the coach for you. I might not actually be the person that you need in your life right now. You might need to go away and read some books. That would be the best transformative thing that will help you the most. And yeah, sure, I'm going to take a financial hit on that because I'm not going to get you as a client. But spiritually speaking, metaphorically speaking, for myself, I'm going to feel a lot better about it because I actually helped you, right? And that's what I'm more concerned. I actually was able to serve you, right? And then the people who do want to work with me will come and work with me, and then we will develop our own strategies around that, right? And then again, finance and money and all that kind of stuff is very kind of secondary to me at this point. And that can be a very arrogant statement people can make, but ultimately I come in from a place of service where I'm like, you know what, if I'm not serving you, I don't want this kind of relationship, you know.
No, I completely understand that, you know, and agree with you there as well, you know, because and it might sound you know, arrogance to people who are not in that sort of mindset at that particular moment. Yeah. And even though when you just said, right, oh yeah, I might lose you as a client because you just told them, you know, go read these books, whatever the books they are. But in the long term, you've gained a client as well, because now they know that you've helped in a way that already helped them to gain that knowledge, what they were looking for with self-help, for example, right? They're helping themselves rather than paying you support. Now they will come back to you or recommend you to the others, right? Oh yeah, you know, I spoke to Chris, he recommended these books. They actually helped. I've understood what I'm going through here. Now this is it. I'm using these strategies in these books. And it's not, so who helped you? Oh, it was Chris. This is the guy on this, you know, go there. So in a way that's also there, but yeah, it coming through, you know, the place of service where you just want to help the person and not just look for self gain. Oh yeah, I need the money. I need to sign you up. So I don't know. Even if I'm just going to recommend you to read some books, I'll just sign up with three coaching sessions, so that by that time I'll give you 3 books, right? Yeah. I've come across those coaches as well, and then you at the end you have to think, we really didn't help that person. We just you know, took money for nothing, and the person will feel it. Maybe not straight away. After a while, they will feel it. They were like, "Whoa, hang on a minute! I don't feel I got what I just signed up for here. It's not,
Right.
it's there. So I 100% agree there. Like, so and also when you start thinking like, oh yeah, the money is the byproduct of whatever you're doing, it just flows. In my view,
Yeah.
it does, and I've experienced it, and it's there. I mean, sometimes I think like you as well. Oh, when I'm saying it, oh, people might think I'm being arrogant here now, or something. But I'm like, listen, hey, this is my journey in my life, and this is how I
Right.
feel. I'll just say it. This is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you see, this is the thing that I think that people, I always try and explain to people all the time. Money is ultimately it's an energy, right? It is more so than anything else. Money is a reflection of the value you create, right? Money will you will naturally generate abundance. You will naturally create wealth in any sense of the word, or every sense of the word, because obviously wealth is a lot more than just financial money, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you are wealthy in other ways, but money is a byproduct of wealth creation. It's a byproduct of abundance in general, and it's also a byproduct of the value you create, right? Now, of course, that can be a very nuanced thing, because I have seen that time and time again be taken in by toxic positivity circles, in new age movements and spiritual circles, where it's like, if you're poor and you're struggling financially, it's because you're not creating value, or you're not valuable enough, right? And that's absolutely not what we're talking about, right? It's much more in the line of, it's money as a physical thing. It's absolutely required for survival, and this is what's so interesting about it as well. But if you're defining your sense of wealth purely by monetary status, then I think that's kind of what ends up creating a lot of these scarcity mindsets. Because if you're defining it as, I don't have enough money, or I'll be happy when this happens, when I have this amount, when I have this number, right? It's never going to happen. Because every time you reach that number, you'll want the next one, and the next one, and the next one. When you train your mind to just accept that actually money is it's a manifestation of the wealth and the value that you create as an individual, but also the wealth and value that you have with yourself, that's when it starts to flow, I think. People like Ken Honda, so another My Money guy, he has things like the Arigato technique, which is, I have used that time to again, and it's one of the beautiful techniques. And it's really, really simple. It's basically, you just say thank you to money. Every time money comes into your account, or every time you buy something, so you hand over money, whether it's with a credit card or physical cash, you just say, he says arigato, which is thank you in Japanese, right? Or you just say thank you. So every time money comes into your account or into your life, and every time it goes out, you say thank you for that energetic exchange that happens. And that begins to train your mind to shift your relationship with money and shift your relationship with wealth. And when it does, when you again, and this goes back to mysticism almost, or occultism, right? The ultimate sort of secret truth of the nugget of gold, or whatever you want to say, in all occultism, in all mysticism, is change your state of consciousness and change your reality, right? Change your mindset, the world around you changes. That's the ultimate little secret behind all mysticism. That's what mysticism is, right? It's a non-rational, or maybe even hyper-rational form of experience where you gain gnosis or insight or understanding of something, but it occurs through a change of consciousness. That's what it is. And then by changing consciousness, you gain some understanding of something. That's what mysticism is. And the entire practice of ritual, of esotericism, whatever you want to say, it's about triggering those open states of consciousness, which then gives you an insight into something. That's all it is, in the simplest form. It's if we were to distill it down as best we can.
I love this actually, and usually at the end, because we would have been wrapping up by now. So usually at the end, I would be like, oh yeah, what would you like to share with the audience? You've already shared amazing right at the end. Do you want to just say that line again? What was that you just said a line, and I love that. It's something change your conception.
So the ultimate sort of truth, or the central part of all mysticism, is change your state of consciousness, change your reality, or change your mindset and change your world. Basically, that's the essence of it.
I love that. So change your mindset to change your reality, right? I might even use that as a title for the episode now. I love that.
Yeah, good work. Yeah, But it's yeah, the whole thing. It's because a lot of mysticism and everything. It works with altered states of consciousness, right? Whether you're going into your normal brainwave functions of beta frequencies or alpha, theta, delta, or anything like that. But the whole essence of it is change your state of awareness, change your state of consciousness, change your mindset, and that changes the world around you. That's what happens, right? And
I
it is
would agree, 100%.
massive level and the personal level of how you perceive it as well.
I would agree with that 100%. I mean, I would have shared some examples with myself as well, but as we are coming near to the time, that would be listeners who are listening to this episode or watching us on live on Instagram now at the moment can watch my previous episodes. I do talk about the mindset and things that I've been doing and how it's changed my perspective of things and the world around me. And it's funny enough, I mean, I've just started my journey into the spiritual realm, and so I'm not that, I would say I'm still a baby in the world, so I'm still trying to understand lots of things. But apparently I've been doing certain things which are part of the manifestation and spirituality and so forth by not knowing any of that stuff, right? So I'll be doing it. So it's been always been there. Certain things that they just came natural to me, like, oh, I'll just do this, I'll do that, and it just helped, and that's the way I progressed, and where I am now is helped a lot. So the main thing I would like to close this with is, thank you very much, Chris, for your time and expanding onto the error world of that I wasn't even aware of. I'm still not too clear on certain bits, but I'm going to pick your brain for them later.
That's right.
So,
yeah,
but it's there. But I'll recommend everybody to reach out to you if they want to know more of these things, and definitely go into Discord. I'm part of that Discord, and I am always learning. Even the memes are interesting. Instead of
the
laughing,
memes in their
like
own.
learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of laughing at the meme, I'm like, oh, what is this real? I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's our secret. We're making everyone laugh, but we're secretly educating them on it as well.
Yeah, I know, right? So I'm learning in different ways in that Discord family there. So I love it. Thank you very much for your time and everything, and everybody else who's been listening to us and watching. If you had an aha moment somewhere whilst you were watching or listening the episode here, now it's your duty to actually share with somebody else. If that has created a spark in your mind for that aha, it's us to now share that spark with somebody else, because all we need is that spark that starts the engine up, that starts the lights. That spark is needed. So we don't know who's gone to bed or woken up thinking of a better day, and if you have that spark, it might just create that spark in them as well, and that spark can just get them going into whatever they are not doing at the moment, and they're thinking about it and they're just not taking that step. There's been so many aha moments for myself in this episode here already, and I'm sure everybody who's been listening to as well had loads of aha moments. So please share it with whoever and whomever you think of that should be listening to this episode, because it's our duty now to share the inspiration with others. We shouldn't keep the inspiration within us, and create those spark with everybody else. And on that note, thank you very much, Chris, and thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Ben.
All right, bye-bye.